Today's topic, I guess, Fresh and Fit ended her career with last night's live stream. Yeah.
I think we're the first ones really calling them out at this point. They've been lying to y'all for years, and they're dumb fans in the back. Oh, fresh and fraud, fresh and fraud. Yo, Prince is like a. It looks like a book.
You should see him build momentum. What the?
Yo, every time this thing,
I got a problem with you.
Imagine them. He's like a monkey. Preacher's over there looking like McGilla Grill and Donkey Kong having a baby.
Like,
Prince like uses his hand. Look at
Not respect to minorities. What? Stop! What? I want to get another round.
Okay. You know, it's very rare for me to see a video on YouTube and not have like an immediate reaction, right? So something like this would have made me like immediately repulsed. I would have had like a strong reaction, like the first time seeing something like this. But the first time I saw this video, which I saw on Abba and Preach's channel, I literally had no words. I was so disgusted to see black men doing this. Making ape sounds, gorilla sounds, running around the room like a complete animal, and talking about another black man in this way. And it bothers me because had this been white YouTubers, Hispanic YouTubers, Asian YouTubers, any other YouTuber doing this, it would have been hell to pay, right? And my first thought was YouTube needs to pull that video down. It's so disgusting, so degrading, so demeaning, so offensive, and so racist. That was my first thought. They need to pull it down. And then I start to think, nope, they need to leave it right there. Leave it right there. Leave that casket open so the world can see. Hello, everybody. My name is Rogan. This is This Bahamian Gyal. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Let's jump right in. I don't usually comment on other YouTubers' videos. It's just not my thing. But on this, I will say something. For those of you who don't know who Abba and Preach are, please do a quick search of them on YouTube. They have almost 2 million subscribers. They're based out of Canada. They're comedians. And I quite enjoy their content. I think they're, for the most part, very respectful and open-minded. And I think, you know, as someone who considers herself to be very open-minded, I kind of gravitate towards people like that. So I tuned in to watch an episode of Abba and Preach and came across this video where the individuals over at Fresh and Fit, which is also a popular channel here on YouTube, were seemingly going at it with Abba and Preach. They've been in a long-standing feud for numerous reasons, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to get into the reaction to this feud and the way Myron and the boys, and I do use boys deliberately, reacted to Abba and Preach. I've always said that people can disagree. And, you know, nobody's going to always agree with you. Even though I watch Abba and Preach, I don't always agree with everything they say. But I do appreciate their sentiments. And I love the fact that they do attempt to at least be civil for the most part in their responses. And they do seem to be respectful for the most part. There are times when they can be disrespectful, right? And despite what I've seen between these two warring YouTubers, I really didn't expect to see this video from Fresh and Fit. The way they were going in on these gentlemen, questioning their sexuality.
Yo, that goofy? Look at you, bro. You're goofy. Gay. Any man that can boogie is on.
Disrespecting Preach's wife, which I thought was just so incredibly out of pocket, and just demeaning him and making racist pronouncements about him, basically likening him to an ape or a gorilla. So the ringleader of this group, Myron, thought it would be funny to get back at Preach by donning a wig, which I guess is supposed to mimic Preach's locks, and running around the room making gestures and sounds like an ape. And I just was so bothered by that, especially, you know, as Black people, we have had to contend with a lot, particularly when it comes to the way we've been represented and thought of culturally in society, in books, in television shows over the, you know, the many decades. And we're often likened to animals, apes, right? Primitive beings. We saw this with Michelle Obama, former First Lady, where someone did a cartoon, a distasteful cartoon, and basically made her look like an ape. And we saw the outrage there, right? But because these are black men in the room insulting other black men, it's almost as if, they get a pass. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for them to do this. You know, they're just boys being boys. They're just toying around. I was bothered by the fact that so many people who tune into their channel were basically congratulating them and goading them on and giving them applause for what they were doing to Preach and Abba, right? To the fact that they were invested so much in this teardown session that they were even giving super thanks. They were giving money to these gentlemen. And I shouldn't even say gentlemen. They were giving money to these guys. Let me don't call them gentlemen, because this is not a gentleman thing to do. But had this been white YouTubers sitting around the table doing this and making monkey or ape imitations, we would hear all about this on the news, right? But because it's black men, it's not a big deal. This was so ridiculous to me, and it was so offensive. And I was happy to see that so many people were so disgusted by this. Like I've said before, Abba and Preach, they're not perfect. Who is? Nobody, no one walking amongst us is perfect. But I think that they are some of the most secure men on this platform. One of the things that these guys over at Fresh and Fit were doing was mocking Preach and Abba for dancing, right? Because Abba does salsa dancing and Preach does contemporary dancing. This is just, ugh. Like, I'm not one of those people who is quick to label men toxic or to say this is toxic masculinity, but this is toxic masculinity right here before our eyes. Let me just play a little bit of this response from Abba and Preach, because I've never really seen them hurt. They usually can take a lot, right? But they're human. And to watch that video, I felt so uncomfortable just staring at them, because I was like, I know that really hurt. To talk about someone's wife, to talk about someone's hair, to talk about someone's body, just their being is just disgusting to me. So let's just listen in, okay?
Okay. I don't know what in Clayton Bigsby you guys were thinking. Okay.
Uncle Ruckus, no relations.
I don't know how you guys did it, but you guys made a more embarrassing response than H3H3 by like a long mile.
Oh my days. They don't even know. I don't think they're smart enough to understand what they just did. They're not smart enough.
I think they know that they have negative feelings about black people.
No, I don't think they do. So to them, I don't think they even comprehend that.
I disagree.
I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to say I agree 100% with Preach. I get where Abba's coming from, right? That they have so much internalized hatred that it manifested, but I'm with Preach. I don't think they're even smart enough to know what they just did, because they don't even take a worldview to this, right? They're not even thinking about what they just did. They just wanted to get off. They just wanted to hurt these two guys. And you know who they hurt in the crossfire? Every other black person. So I'm 100% with Preach. I don't even think they're aware. I think they're very clueless about this. Let's continue listening.
I think some people just got anti-black sentiments and they just don't want to acknowledge it. Just because you don't want to acknowledge it doesn't mean you don't know it's there. And it's like, you got a mess under the table. Just because you didn't look don't mean you don't know it's there.
What you're saying?
You got a white dude coming on talking about spear chucking, like using every racist trope I'd ever heard from a white racist in regards to black people. Mm-hmm. You're out here making monkey noises about a black person. I mean, you could just drop the hard N-E-E-R on the N-word because it's the same.
Might as well. Spear chucking, that's messed up.
Basically. And Abba's absolutely correct. I heard so many racist remarks made in that room that made me so uncomfortable. You know, as a black person, typically you will hear people using the N-word, right? And you've gotten so desensitized to it, right? But to see it all on display, the way it was on display in that room, it made me uncomfortable as a black person. It made me so incredibly uncomfortable. Let's listen.
No, not respect to minorities. What the? Stop! What? I want to get another one.
To see this man wearing a KKK hood over his head, I don't even know if he's aware that there are people who are still alive in the United States who were traumatized by the KKK. Right? There are survivors, family members who are survivors of the KKK, all their antics. They've lost family members. Some of them are still alive in this country. The KKK is very robust, still around. And they thought it was funny to do this. Myron put up the Hitler's. I almost raised my hand to do it. Put up the Hitler sign. Okay? Mein Führer. What do you think that does to the Jews? How do you think the Jewish people feel about that? He's hitting so many people in this crossfire. He doesn't even have an appreciation of it. He doesn't know it. He doesn't understand it. He's clueless. That's why I agree with Preach.
Watching them run around and do these kinds of poses for 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I guess this is just how high-value men act in the privacy of their home.
Yes.
When they're mad about something, they don't make business moves, they don't do things strategically, they just run around like monkeys.
They make monkeys. That's a high value.
That is a high-value man.
That's a high value.
This guy's apparently now the new leader of the Red Pill.
Yes.
Okay? And this is what he's like.
That's high value.
On camera. Imagine behind closed doors.
Right. So these guys on Fresh and Fit consider themselves to be high-value men. I don't know how. I don't know what's high value about that. That was the most basic, disgusting display I'd ever seen in my life. And they're very short-sighted. That wasn't even a smart business move. YouTube is a platform. Sometimes people think this is an alternate universe, right? But we all exist in the same world, right? So after you've logged off of your camera and shut your production down, you still have to step out into the real world. And that's what you want to be known for? That's what you want people to remember you for? If this platform goes away tomorrow, like so many other platforms have in the past, you got to step back into the real world, right? This is what you're going to be remembered for. There's nothing high value about this.
I've known many great leaders. I don't think I've ever seen one act as embarrassing as him.
Bro, you are a homo.
That's a rebuttal. You do contemporary dance, therefore you're gay. That's Abba does salsa, so that's it.
Again, using the word gay as a slur, a pejorative. Oh, you so gay that, come on. As if gay men aren't real men. You see how many people just keep getting hit in the crossfire? You got your blacks, you got your Jews, you got your gays. To see Myron running around with this wig on, like, first of all, did he just have this wig at the ready? So you are too emotionally invested. You're emotionally invested and financially invested that you would have to go out and get a wig just to imitate another dude. I mean, he could have primed it from Amazon, so there's that. I want you to listen to this part because Myron seemed to have been in his feelings. By the way, ABBA, for those of you who don't know, ABBA was on his podcast at one point, and he went back on his platform, and I guess he still had some things to say about this dude. Because he knows who he is. He said that an assistant had called him. ABBA, that is, says that one of Myron's assistants or somebody affiliated with him had called him to say that after he left the podcast, that Myron was making statements or pronouncements about him. I don't know if it's true or not, but I wouldn't doubt it just based on the behavior that I'm seeing here today. So, I mean, they're not friends, but I want you to listen to what Myron says next, because this was just funny to me.
I just want to know why you would have a great conversation. It's all great. And then you decide, let me go ahead and talk about this guy that opened his home to me. The reason why I flipped out the way that I did is because I take loyalty extremely seriously. I think you guys have known me now for well over 2 years. The reason why I flipped out is because I hate snakes.
All right, stop. Ain't your podcast in your house? Don't you film from your house like how I film from my house? So if I wanted to have somebody over, what do you mean I had him in my home? He's acting like Abba showed up on his doorstep in the rain with his bags and a stray dog. And he said, I have nowhere to go. They just put me out. I have nowhere to go. Dude, I'm homeless. And then Myron's like, bro, as long as I'm alive, you're good. As long as I got a roof over my head, you got a roof over your head. My kitchen is yours. My food is yours. My car is yours. Whatever I have is yours. And then Abba betrayed him. You literally invited him on a podcast at your house. Watching this video also, I could see that this guy right here, Sneeko, is that his name or Freako? What's his name? According to a lot of people, he's not the greatest guy out there, right? but I could tell that he was most uncomfortable at points. Like you could just see it on his face. Like if you read his body language, it's like this uncomfortable laughter. Like people were saying, oh, he's just as complicit, which yes, he is just as complicit, right? But when you in that fraternity, I suppose, and you with the bros, it's so hard to kind of break off from that. But I saw a glimmer of hope. I could tell that he did not want to be involved in that. Even when Myron did the Hail Hitler sign, right, with his hand. What's his name? Sneeko kind of put his hand down like, hey, don't be doing that on my channel. You know what I mean? Like I basically I could get demonetized or I could get in trouble. But I saw a glimmer of hope. I hope that he can just kind of just disassociate from this group. He's still young, but honestly, this group is imploding. And I don't understand how people are supporting this. Like, to me, you should never, ever have supporters who just support you no matter what, right? You always have to have somebody to kind of keep you in check. That is a dangerous thing to go through life where nobody is checking you. I want to just point to that recent video with the black girl. I think she was in New York, who had the lawyer snatch her wig off while she was outdoors. He just snatched the wig off her head, right? And he was unapologetic about it. But look at the video, because the guys who were in the video with him, his friends, were like, dude, like they were like, no, you're wrong. Like, just say you're sorry. Just apologize. So just listen to that real quick.
Sir, for what reason? For what reason? For what reason did you take my wig off? Because what made you think that was the good thing to do? What made you think that was the good thing to do? For what? For what? Why did you do that? What makes you think that that's okay? Is that funny? Is that funny? You don't even know me. Do you hate women or something?
Okay. So you had these guys, his friends, are telling him, no, you're wrong. Stop, you're wrong. Apologize to her. And he's like, for what? For what? Like, you know what I mean? He's been fired. He's been fired for what happened, because and he's a lawyer. I don't even know how he thought it was cool to assault somebody in the street. And that was assault. This is why it's so important to surround yourself with people who will check you, who will keep you in check. Because left to your own devices, you will implode. And there was no adult in this room. As I'm looking at it, there was no adult in the room to say, stop, this is going too far. They were so tight and they were so in their feelings that they just lashed out at these two men who, Abba and Preach, look pretty damn good right now. They didn't deserve this. They didn't deserve this at all. This entire tirade, this episode with Fresh and Fit, it will not age well. And sadly, if they were to find themselves on the receiving end of racism, any sort of racist attack, any racial attack, they won't find sympathy from a lot of people, certainly not me. Myron had no issue walking around that room, parading around that room, thumping on his chest, parading like a gorilla, making monkey sounds, acting completely unhinged. But I applaud Abba and Preach for being measured, for being dignified in their response, and for being so mature. I really do. There's a part of me that wants YouTube to take this offensive video down because it is so disgusting and so offensive and so racist. But there's an even bigger part of me that wants them to leave it up. Leave that casket open. Let the world see.